feel like everything's kind of coming together at the right time here?
Well, I think from a rebounding standpoint, that's been huge to be able to out-rebound our opponents by 40 in 2 games or close to. I think we're a little under that. This is a big statement. Trey Kaufman had games this year, where he had 24 and 3. He'd have 26 and 5. And we weren't perfect today. We had 19 turnovers. We really could have opened the game up if we'd have got hot there. We were getting some pretty good shots. We did a really good job in our execution. PJ did a fabulous job in getting us prepared. But I thought our ability to rebound, Trey's ability to rebound, go get 15 rebounds. But it was everybody. It was a total group effort.
The way Cam and Miles have played these first 2 games, the way the 2 freshman guards played today,
right.
You feel a little deeper, a little more complete than maybe you were for most of the year?
Yeah, no question about it. And it's hard, man. It's hard for those guys to get into a rhythm. It's hard for them to be able to play because you don't always play through mistakes. You can play well. Like Miles, we played him at the 4. That was great. But it's really not being the 4, right? When you're out there, they got 4 guards out there, and us putting 4 guards out there. But it just gives us another guy. But you're allowed to do that when those guys are rebounding. Jakari did a good job rebounding. Cam did a great job rebounding the game before. Miles got rebounds for us. So I'm probably missing a few guys. But when you're doing other things and you can make shots, especially with them in the switching defense and how they play. So I thought our guys did a good job in our execution. We got a little stagnant there, but we also got stagnant because we missed some open shots. We were getting what we wanted to there, as long as we didn't turn the basketball over.
The rebounding rewarded what you guys were doing defensively. That was the big question, I think, even internally coming into this weekend. What did you like the most about what you guys showed these 2 games?
Yeah, each team's going to be different. They're going to get into ISOs. They're going to really attack us. They just kind of made that, their focal point, especially there in the second half. And we just wanted to kind of hold tough right there and give a lot of help and make the ball go out. But if they did get that 5 to 10 foot range, make them hit those tough runners and floaters. The way we were executing, as long as we didn't turn it over, we felt like when you're up by 20 points that we're going to be in a good position, and obviously we were.
That stretch at the end of the first half, from a defensive standpoint, seemed crucial too, because you guys weren't making shots,
right,
but even extended the lead.
Yeah, that really helped us at that point because we were getting, we were executing, we were getting good shots. They weren't going down, but then they weren't, they weren't getting an advantage on us because we were doing a good job on the defensive end.
They settled for a lot of jumpers to start the game. Do you view that more as guys one-on-one doing their jobs, keeping the ball in front of them, or is it more about the system, the help behind them being sharper?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit of both. I think that, most guys are going to try to feel their way through the game by shooting. And so, if we're going to load up and try to keep the ball out of the paint, now we're going to have some contested threes there. They make some of those. They could change us a little bit in terms of what we're doing, but we wanted to keep the ball out of the paint. And you can see he really made an emphasis of it going the second half. And then the start of the second half, they didn't make that move. Then obviously the 2 technicals and, the flagrant, they handed us some points there. And, that was just one of those things where now we had to play better in that stretch. But it's kind of human behavior, too. When you get those points and you get up 25 points, that it just seems the other team comes back. But we got to do a better job taking care of the basketball. There's no doubt about that.
Start of the game seemed like a showcase of what Trey can do when he's patient. Was that always the antidote to how they shift and come at the ball?
Yeah, our question was, through their switching and their full fronting, could he get those catches? And so, that's what we wanted to talk about. We wanted to keep screening our own man and keep bringing people high. And so if they're going to hold a low man behind him to throw over the top or throw direct passes in there, now we had to screen our own and try to get those threes. Then when we don't get those threes, be able to try to look back in there, but then keep reversing it, keep getting it to the other side. Because now when you have multiple switches, 3, 4, 5, 6 switches, one guy just gets behind one time, now you got open shots. I thought in that stretch right there where we struggled, CJ making that 3. We did that in that possession. It's a low shot clock possession, but we just kept finding and moving the basketball and couldn't get it inside, but they kept holding their low man. And then when he hit that opened some things up.
Brayden had the play where he dove for the loose ball, got it ahead of Miles and got fouled.
Fabulous play.
Yeah. they celebrated that, and you get no points out of it until out of the media timeout with the free throws. But is that kind of symbolic of what you think Purdue basketball is when that happens?
No question about it. Just giving multiple efforts, just making that play. Like when he first did it, it almost looked like one of those fake hustle plays. Right? Some guy's diving, he has no chance to get the ball, and he makes the play. Like, it was right in front of me. It's coming right at me. I'm like, man, that was my first instinct. Like, he can't get there. And he obviously did, and obviously to have the intelligence and the toughness to make the play and save it towards his goal to where he's not saving it and they're just getting a rhythm shot. But it was a big time play.
Matt, can you walk me through his recruitment? It was during COVID. He wasn't like a no-brainer kind of guy. COVID makes it hard to evaluate. Just walk me through that. And I heard once you finally evaluated him and saw him in person, you were like, he and Fletcher were going to win.
Yeah, we had multiple people. Bruce Parkinson being one who he broke his record for the assist record. Some different guys in his community that are with the Pacers that reached out to us, and we had somebody committed. So once that person decommitted from us, and now we jumped in, we had already been bombarded like, hey, this guy can do it. And it's one of those guys that, when you don't pass the look test, like now a lot of people won't give you your just due. Sure. I talked to 2 or 3 different people in college and in high school about him, and they just said like he's fabulous. He's Scott Skiles. He's just got that swagger about him. He's tough. He's hard nosed. He can really pass. And then watching film, I watched 4 or 5 guys on film, and I clearly thought by film he was the best. Yeah. But film can trick you sometimes. Sure. You still want to see somebody in person, but it just looked too obvious. And then the people that contact me all know basketball and understand basketball. So we're very fortunate. Yeah. Very fortunate to have him.
Bruce Parkinson is not a household name in America. Obviously, Purdue he is indoors. It's kind of cool that he's revived him. It's just a conversation. He's kind of reintroduced a new generation.
No doubt. Well, Braden's dad and Bruce's son, Austin, who played at our place also, they played the same backcourt in high school. Yeah. So that connection right there, just, a basketball family, the toughness thing, that really wins out because it's a pretty important position, right? The guy's going to have the ball in his hands. Yeah. The assistants are always trying to give me to give him a break, give him a ball. Like, even at the end of the game, they said hey, you can get Braden out now. I said, well, how the hell are we going to get the ball past half court? You still want to get the ball past half court, but no, he's a big time player.
Man, I'm kind of curious. The portal opening Monday, you guys still live. How does that complicate things, both in your pursuit of players, but also guys on your team who have to make decisions?
I was the guy on the committee in the whatever the heck you want to call it subgroup that changed the rule to give the date pushed up because it affects 16 people that are now in the Sweet 16. There's a lot of schools that are done. So our date was so far back at May 15th that now people don't realize. You say, well, May 15th is not bad. Well, that's the cutoff for the portal. And it was like May 8th or May 1st or whatever it was. And so they kept wanting to push it back because now kids were making visits in late May, early June, late June. And now it was overlapping with the next year's recruitment. And so now we push it back, but it's right. If you make the Sweet 16, here it is for you. Now we haven't spent a lot of time in the portal. We're going to here. So it is different, but that's what a majority of the coaches wanted. They wanted it pushed back, so hopefully they can get their recruitment done before the summer starts, and they can get a little bit of a break there for 2 weeks before summer school starts and before the next year's high school recruiting. Because the last 2 weekends in high school recruiting, there would be coaches you wouldn't see. You're like, where are you? And so I'm still trying to sign players for next year. And so, we're trying our best to do it. There's nothing perfect because it's not perfect the way it is. I believe it's better than the way it is, but it's still, for the people that are playing in the Crown and people playing in the NIT and people playing in the NCAA, the CBI, the CIT, for those teams right there, now you got, double duty. But that's part of it, man. Adjust to it. You just got to be on the phone. You got to do your job, but you also got to keep your focus because this is the most important stuff. You work like hell to be in this position. And now here you are, you want to play well in the Sweet 16.
To what extent you're going to be active, and are there specific things you're looking for?
Well, it's kind of tough right now for us because, you don't know what's happening at the end of the year. Right. We got to do our work. And if we need to, then we push forward. And if we don't, then we don't. So, it's one of those things where, it's some of it could be unnecessary, right? But we're also kind of future tripping and saying if we lose a guard, we got to get a guard. If we lose a forward, we got to get a forward. If we lose a center, we got to get a center. So kind of look at your roster. The one thing that we did do was we had one scholarship, and he's a 4.5, and we took a guard. And so, like, we tried to get that forward. And like, obviously you guys know. And so we didn't do that. So that's always been in the back of our mind, because where I had it last year, I thought was right on the line. Nobody gets hurt, we're fine. Somebody got hurt, and now that, so I think that's why you see a lot of coaches go past that line, right? But you hope when you sign 13 people, you hope all 13 can like help you and be productive, and that's the goal. And sometimes that's not the case, but it is your job to project that. And sometimes you're better at other times. I know it was harder because we made it offensive, and with Trey Kaufman, we made it offensive, and that took away from some people on our team, and that's not fair to them, but we felt that gave us the most production in totality for our team. So whether right or wrong, that's what we need.
Talking to Fletcher, he says, they're not satisfied with the Sweet 16. That's not what they're here for. How much is that drive and ethos of, especially Braden and Fletch, kind of the defining characteristic of them as players?
Yeah, they've experienced a lot. Like, what are they're 7-2 in the NCAA tournament, like, and they're still playing. They've been in a championship game. They've lost a 1-16 game, and they've won, a lot of games in between versus quality opponents. So they've experienced a lot. And anytime you get to where they did last year, you want to get back there. You want to get back there and win it. And that's a hard deal, but you got to, just win you got to win the next game. But it's also, having to sit when you have that kind of a loss. Like, people have no idea. Like that's painful, man. That's torture. But it also makes you strong. It also makes you callous. And now you got to believe in your convictions. You got to believe in what you do. And sometimes you got to look at things and make some changes, make some adjustments. And then other times it's like, no, this is the best thing for our program. This is what we got to